sprinkling in a little stuff as we go. But now we have our next speaker, and again, I told him I'm not going to do a big, long introduction. I've been trying to get him on our stage for a couple of years, and it's the first time he was able to come. He's going to be teaching you now, and then again on Sunday, and he will be on our panel tomorrow night, meet and greets tomorrow night as well. But anyone ever hear of Hollywood? Okay, well, he is going to teach you about how to get into Hollywood, and it's a crazy, crazy place. So he's going to teach you about writing novels, taking your book, getting it made into movies, and everything else you want to know. Welcome, let's stand up, Sean Wander! Hey, hello everybody! All right. Thank you so much. All right, let's have a look at you out there. Who's the next filmmaker in the crowd? All right. Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy lives and your schedules to be here. And actually, before I go any further, I really want to give a huge thank you to Joel. Let's give Joel one more big round of applause. In addition to delivering such a powerful message, Joel did such an excellent job of setting the frame today. I'm so glad he said what he said, because I'm going to be saying so many things for you all today that are going to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. So many things that you've heard about Hollywood and the film industry for decades simply don't apply anymore. It is a different world. The world is flat. And that applies to Hollywood just like any other industry that we're talking about. So let me ask you all, how many people are here in this room today with a project of major importance? I don't see everybody's hand. Let's try that one more time. Who is here with a project of major importance? That's right. Why would you go anywhere, let alone to LA in the middle of an event like this, without a project of major importance? So, how many of you love movies? How many of you have actually thought? In fact, how many of you actually ever wondered what it would be like to have agents, producers, actors, different people with your script or your book in their hands, looking at it? A lot of you, right? Not to mention the general public. How many of you have actually wondered what it would be like to be a Hollywood insider, to be on the inside tip, to have Hollywood people coming to you as the talent for their next big project? So many, right? We think about the movies. But beyond that, how many people have actually ever wondered what it would be like to actually have the knowledge and the skills to be able to navigate this process that so many people think have such a huge barrier up until this point? It's a huge, huge limiting belief that we have. Well, I'm here to tell you, and you are all about to discover today, the 5 keys for taking your idea and your project from idea to actual successful completion. This is what we're going to learn today. You're also going to discover the secret tactics that authors use when they're actually adapting their material to a film script. There are a lot of different things we need to do, and there's a #1 huge mistake that comes up with most authors when they're trying to make that transition. We're also going to talk about the hidden framework behind all movie genres and why it's so important, whether or not you ever write a script, that you understand what that framework is. And last but not least, of course, we're going to talk about how breaking into Hollywood doesn't have to be a big dream or this big impossible mystery. So before I go any further, one of the things that we use with all of our clients, and for those of you that don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit more in a moment, but my company is Real Writing. We work with people both in the Hollywood industry, writers, producers, directors, as well as aspiring talent on taking their projects from story development all the way to final execution, including in many cases full production. One of the most valuable tools that we have is something called the 11 Questions Cheat Sheet Quick Start Guide. On our website, it normally sells for $40, but we want to give people a quick jump start here. So if it's okay with everybody in the room, I'd just rather give it away for free. Okay? So after this, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this later, you'll come see me out at the booth out there, and we'll get you all signed up, and make sure you do this. My partner, Mitchell German, who is an absolute genius, and the founder and the creator of what we call our core element process and our method. He basically takes a U2 song, literally with nothing but the title of the song, and builds an entire story from a song title. It's an incredible thing as you watch it unfold day by day, those 11 questions. So, what I want to get into now is to ask you, why movies? I mean, who here actually likes Hollywood? Let's be honest. Let's take a step back. Who actually likes the Hollywood industry and what it represents? There's a few of you, brave souls, okay? Are you in Hollywood? Who are you covering for out there? All right. Well, the truth of the matter is that, you know, when you've written a book and you have a great piece of source material, you know, the movies are really just, it's another great venue to share your message. See, I believe that the most important thing we do as creators, because we're not just authors. I'm not a big fan of labels. And what's important to me, most importantly, is to be able to have a medium to share your message. And as a book author, that's going to get in the hands of some people. As a television creator, you're going to get that in the hands of other people. And as a movie producer or a filmmaker, you're going to get that into the hands of more people. And if your message, we all just agreed that you're here on a project of major importance, right? So you want to get that out there to as many different people as you possibly can. And movies are a great way to do that. So let's talk a little bit about how things have actually changed in Hollywood. First and foremost, there is a huge industry that is outside of mainstream Hollywood. Most people, we think of Hollywood as sort of Access Hollywood, the celebrities, the red carpets, but do you have any idea just how big the industry apart from mainstream Hollywood is? It is enormous. There is a tremendous amount of opportunity. And more importantly, there are so many fewer barriers to entry nowadays. You know, back in the 60s, or even before then, everything went through the studios. I'm not going to embarrass anybody here in this room, like our host or anyone else, but some of us may really remember when it was the original studio system. And who remembers back that far? You don't have to raise your hand, but just think about it. What happened? Everyone was under contract with the studio, right? There was actors, the producers, the writers, and the studio was the king of everything. That's the way it all worked. Not that way anymore. Everything is different. You no longer have to go through studios, in fact. And so you also no longer have to rent expensive equipment. How many of you understand that you can go out there with your phone and make a feature film? How many of you actually done it? Gone out and shot a film of your family, edited it together, had fun, or even just to show somebody a concept? There is not that barrier to entry anymore. Many more distribution channels. Hulu, Netflix, YouTube. What matters is eyeballs on your message. The more people that see it, the more people you can impact, the more it can be. It does not have to go through the studio. And of course, there's many additional ways now to turn your ideas into your movies that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about a secret of Hollywood. It's a secret, though, that everyone in the industry knows. And what happens is, this is what happens with most of Hollywood. You have literally thousands of people across the industry scouring for materials. You would think with the different movies that come out, all the rejection that you hear about, people always talking about how it's so hard to break in, wouldn't you think that they have an endless supply of story ideas? The truth of the matter is, it's not true. That's why they have the hundreds of screenplay contests. That's why they come all over the world, having festivals, looking for more writers, looking for more material. That's why they have such an independent film movement, looking for this. That's why they still take query letters. That's why they still have dozens of readers at each studio, constantly looking for new material. Why do you think it is that we're on sequel number 6 of movies we saw 25 years ago? It's incredible. Hollywood will always need ideas. It is never, ever going to change. That opportunity is not going to go away. Let's talk about Evan Doherty. Does anybody know who Evan Doherty is? You know, and it's okay. Evan Doherty started as a magazine writer, okay? Evan Doherty sold his first, what we call a spec script. Everyone know what a spec script is? Script is basically a script that is not it's, you know, for example, in the book world, it would be the equivalent of having a publisher's advance, where you're actually paid to work on that project. In Hollywood, there are certain writers that are actually paid ahead of time to be staff writers for that particular project. A spec script is when you write your script on your own from whatever form, and you are trying to sell that to someone in the industry. So Evan Doherty had his first spec script. His first spec script was a little movie project called Snow White and the Huntsman. Anyone want to take a guess what that movie sold for? $100,000? $200,000? $500,000? About $3 million per spec script. He later went on to do these: Killing Season with Robert De Niro and Travolta, Divergent, which I don't know how well it did in the box office, but it was recent, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, my kids love that movie, and G.I. Joe 3. He was just commissioned to write G.I. Joe 3. So what are you taking from this? What you take from this is that an unknown writer to the industry showed his chops, showed that he can do it, and he's got work. He's a busy guy right now. Forget about the $3 million lottery ticket that he punched when he sold that spec script. He's now got work, and he is an in-demand writer. Let's talk about some other spec scripts. Anybody hear of the movie Safe House with Denzel Washington? Another spec writer, sold for $600,000. My partner in the back, who I'll introduce you all to later, Howard Reichman, a good friend of his who went to NYU with him, a man named Gary Nadeau, wrote the movie Jack. Some of you may remember that. That was the one with Robin Williams. And I think that was directed by Coppola. Bill Cosby was in it. There's a great story behind that, which I will probably tell in more detail on Sunday when I come back. But that movie was basically finished off on a plane ride to LA. And it was sold while they were on the plane for $600,000. Highlander, that's a guy by the name of Gary Wyden. He wrote that script when he was in college. And again, this is way back, and we're going into the 80s here, for 600, just about, I think it was either 600,000 or 500,000. So the idea here is many of you are book authors. I asked you before, or actually Joel did, how many of you are fiction writers, novelists, not based on true material? Okay, so I don't have to remind all you of all the different material we see in Hollywood that came from fiction books. You got the Harry Potter series, the Hunger Games, the Maze Runner series, even Shawshank Redemption was taken, totally different genre. But what I always notice about these type of events is there are a lot of people that are nonfiction writers, and they say, well, you know, it's different than writing a creative work, because this is about my life. Who's going to care about my life? I don't know. Maybe some of you have heard of this guy, Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street. Dan Millman wrote a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Spiritual breakthrough, one of the first books on spiritual subject matter that I ever read. Absolutely changed my life. Wasn't a great movie, but the point is, it was based on his work. And last but not least, how many of you saw The Social Network? About that small company. Something about, you know, likes and shares and stuff. So, you guys all have your original work. You have your life story to tell. And the world wants to hear your message. Whether you believe it today or not, the world wants to hear your message. What I want to remind you of also is that there is a little category on the Oscars. Anybody ever watch the Oscars? Best Adapted Screenplay. What do you think that means? It's taken from another piece of work. Based on a true story, we see that all the time. Hollywood wants to hear your stories. So, as I said, the open secret of Hollywood is that despite the facade, despite the barriers that are constantly being represented as being so hard to get into, Hollywood will continue to spend hundreds of millions of dollars looking for great ideas through story readers, script doctors, working with existing material, writing new materials. It is a huge industry, and this opportunity is never going to go away. I think Leonardo DiCaprio says it really best. I mean, he just framed it perfectly. This is actually taken from an interview with Charlie Rose that he did before one of his big movies, but if it's okay with you all, just in case it's a little hard to see in the back. He talks about the importance of great material. He says, everything at the end of the day when you're making a movie starts with the material and how well written the script is. I have never seen a silk purse made from a sow's ear. I've never seen it happen where in a crap script, with a crap director or crap characters, somehow found a way to make a masterpiece out of it. And that's the constant struggle. We all sort of have this as actors. It's finding those gems and why people grab onto them like vultures. When you find a great piece of material or a great script, it's like vultures. It's like a feeding frenzy. You should see what happens, like a piranha feeding fest, he says. This is Leonardo DiCaprio. We all agree he's a pretty well-paid top actor. He certainly gets his hands on the pick of the litter when it comes to great material. They spent 15 minutes talking about the importance of great material in this narrative. I'm telling you folks, Hollywood needs your ideas. Don't think for a second that they don't. So as I said again, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sean Wander, co-founder and CEO. My company is Real Right. And this is my family over here. I've got my wife, my kids, Uncle Tiger over there on the left. He's not in the family, but he wants to be. What can I say about this? You know, this is what it's all about. And I'm really not here. I put this just for those that don't know me to get an idea of what we do. I think I explained. I think Rick sort of set the frame. And more importantly, I don't want to talk to you from the stage about what I do. I'm going to be here for you all weekend, rest here through Sunday. And I want to talk to you personally. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear what your struggles are, what your challenges are, what you think about the industry, what your myths are. Is there a reason why, if I gave you an opportunity tomorrow, you wouldn't say, thank you so much, can't wait to talk to you next week with the next step? If you have that fear, that's what we're here to talk to you about. How are you? Because you don't have to have that fear. And as Joel said, you can't have it. You can't afford to. And that's why we're here to help. But I have to tell you, for as long as I was, really that I can remember, I always wanted to be in the film industry. I mean, ever since I saw The Godfather and was a huge movie buff of the classics, that's what I wanted to do. And I really thought that I was going to do that. I thought I was going to live that life and be in the movies. And what happened was that somewhere between high school and today, something happened that happens to maybe a few others in the world. Just life happens. Something different. And I realized that one of the themes of my life became later. I'm going to do this later. I can always come back and do this later. Because right now I've got to take care of this, but that film thing, that dream of mine, I'm going to do that later. So instead, what happened was I really became a master at underachieving. I didn't get into film school. My grades were terrible. I did, however, get into Arizona State University's Cronkite School of Broadcasting, which was a great school. Hey, no Devils. They're actually good this year. It's pretty exciting. So I did get in there, except I found probably the fastest way out as anybody's ever seen. In less than a semester, I flunked out. You see, instead of preparing for my life in the film world and television world, I chose to be tanning and playing volleyball and drinking beer. So with my tail between my legs, I went back home, and I actually ended up working at a women's hosiery company. Did you guys hear that? A women's hosiery company. That's in the Empire State Building, women's hosiery company. It was called Fine Shear. Okay? And I can tell you all with absolute certainty that the very best thing I did while I was at that job was made coffee perfectly for 5 different people. I just said, challenge me. Who needs a cup of coffee? This is what I can do. It was a thankless job, farthest thing in the world from where I actually wanted to be. I mean, can you imagine? Here I was 2 years earlier. I was winning awards for entrepreneurship. My high school had a television studio. Now more and more schools for the kids have these studios, but back then, it was like a real special treat. We had the local cable studio there, and this is where all their programming came from. So I was so excited to continue this journey. But instead, I got caught up in the moment, and I said, I can always get back to that later. Well, eventually, I did actually make my way back out to ASU, and I did get that degree in broadcasting. And I went to work on Wall Street, back in New York, and was part of a team with over $250 million under management. So I got caught up, earning a good living. I moved back out to Florida to work and manage my family's manufacturing company in water features, custom water features. It was a lot of fun, and I was earning a good living. But what do water features and finances have to do with being in the movie industry? Not much. And so once again, I was caught in the time of labor. And then on October 14th, actually it's 23rd today, right? So a little more than 3 years ago, I had to knock on my door that literally would change my life. About 2:30 in the morning, I hear this pounding on my door. Pounding. And at the time, I lived in an area where there were a lot of college kids, because it was right near Long Island, Florida. Anyone here from Florida? Anyone make laundry? Cool, awesome. So Jupiter, Florida, there's big baseball fields over there, spring training. I thought maybe just something got out and people were making some ruckus. Would not go away. I look out, peek out the window, and I see there's 2 cop cars. 2:30 in the morning, 2 cop cars. Do I go get the door? Okay, so I go downstairs, I get the door, I open the door, and these 2 officers are standing there with that look on their face. Has anybody ever seen an officer at the door with a look on their face? And I'm thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. Parking tickets? 2:30. And he says, "Are you Sean Wander?" And I said, "Yes." And then there was a pause. He said, "Are you the son of Leslie Wander?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but Mrs. Wander and Mr. Cole were in an automobile accident this evening." I said, "Are they okay?" They said, "No, I'm terribly sorry, but they both lost their lives." So, 2:30 in the morning, thunder through my heart. I could not move. Here was someone who was live, vivacious. I thought my kids were going to have their grandmother for the next 25 years at least, playing with them, guiding them. She was a teacher. She was like a second mother to my kids, not to mention the mother she was to me. I thought, it's not a big deal, because I'll just see you later. Who are we to think that we have later? Who are we to realize that we don't have anything beyond today that is promised to us? Right here, right now, in this room is all we are guaranteed. So I knew from that point on that I was going to be working on projects of major importance for me in my life. So that's when I decided to reconnect with my old good friend Howard, who I've known since we were 11 years old. He's my second oldest friend. And his writing and producing partner, Mitchell German, the brilliant genius behind our process. And we decided to work forward in the industry that we knew we were ready to hit, because he had already been doing this. See, Howard and Mitch did go to NYU Film School. They actually have been working in the industry. Howard is based in LA. Howard is part of this industry. I asked Howard to clear his schedule for the rest of this weekend so he could be here with me. He doesn't care that I'm speaking on stage. He wanted to be here with me to help spend time with you. So, use Howard. He is an incredible resource. And he'll be up here with me on Sunday going through the pitch workshop. So, right now, I have a challenge for you all, because I want you to imagine again what it would be like to actually be able to have the knowledge and the skills to be able to take this craft and actually not have scattered ideas with no place to go. To be able to unpack your mind and get them on the page. You writers how many of you actually finished a book and published it? And let's just go with that. Okay, so there's a lot of people here who are really excited to be here, right? You guys are going to have some major education this weekend, and I hope that if I'm ever back on this stage again, the next time I ask that question and I see some of you, more hands go up. So that's what we're going to do. I want you to imagine that possibility. And what I want to do now is talk about what I'm here to talk about, which is what I promised, and that is the 5 keys to breaking through the Hollywood barrier. So write these down. You guys are okay with me giving you real content today, right? I know there weren't going to be a lot of points, but I thought this is my time and this is your time, and I thought you'd appreciate some actionable things you can do. Okay? So, key number 1, find a story worth telling. Key number 2 is create a great story map. Key number 3, film adaptation 101. Great movies are built. Key number 4, you need a killer pitch. Key number 5 is you call the shots. I got to motor through this, guys. This is actually taken from a longer presentation, so are you okay if I pick up the pace a little bit? Just stop me if it's really too fast and you need me to repeat something, okay? So key number 1 is find that story worth telling. The most important thing that you need to understand is that any idea, while you're sitting there thinking, maybe I don't have such a great idea for a story, Any idea can be a great story because it's not about the idea, is it? What is it about? It's about the proper execution of that idea. That's what's most important. Also, the #1 biggest mistake that I see when we work with our clients is that they are trying to take this huge life story and pack it into a movie. And the hardest thing that there is to find is to extract that story that is worth telling. Remember, you've got a small snapshot of time on film that we need to work with. Sometimes characters are eliminated, sometimes they're condensed, sometimes they're combined to create a narrative effect on film. It's very different than the luxury of interior monologue and all of those things that you have when writing a book. It's a different medium. So what we work on doing is identifying the core elements. There are actually 8 core elements that are key and part of this process, and frankly, there are also 12 key structural moments that are part of a movie's timeline. And we'll talk a little bit more about those on Sunday as well. So key #2 is create a great story map. Write this all down, folks, because I want to tell you right now, if you take nothing away from my entire message today, this one process alone can be the difference between you struggling with years of failure versus total change to success. It happens so fast. How many of you are, let me just ask this question one more time. I know Joel did earlier, but how many of you actually work in a regular job or a regular life outside of your work? Okay, so anybody in the business world, working with strategy, thinking through things, planning things, how many of you agree that there are much better results when you actually take the time to think something through, to plan it through before you start on execution? How many people also understand that that is a skill that most people do not do? Most people, they get an idea, and the first thing they need to do is they start writing. Well, I got to get it on the page, right? I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose this great idea. So we need something that is a vehicle to capture those ideas in a proper order, regardless of which order they come up. We need to be able to organize that, and that's what the story map does. This is where you take all of those ideas, all of those things that come to you, and you capture them by identifying those key moments throughout your story. Because once you've filled out that story map, now when it's time to start working on your script or your book or anything else, now you can focus only on the content and not on the structure, because that work has already been done for you. Take the time, please, in the next project you're working on, however long or short, do an outline and a story map first. And there are a number of tools and a number of processes that can help you with this. But it's a huge thing. Again, one of my biggest takeaways from the whole message today is before you write one word of that script, make sure you know where you're going so you're not one of the millions or hundreds of thousands who says, you know what, I was through Act 1 and then all of a sudden somewhere in the middle of Act 2, it's just not working. The characters they're not connecting, the storyline is getting a little weak. This is what we hear over and over and over again. So again, identifying all those elements. Film adaptation #1. Great movies are built. How many of you are familiar with architecture, the process of architecture? In fact, how many of you actually ever had a home built? Actually had a home built. So here's something to remember. When was the last time when you had your new home built and the contractor called you with the keys? You drove on up and they handed you keys to a blueprint. Doesn't happen, right? That would be pretty bad. Keys to a blueprint. Well, that's the other thing that's different about books and Hollywood and movies. Because in Hollywood, the script is not the final product. There's always a movie that comes after that. And that's why it's so important to think about the movie process and the filmmaking process like architecture. Because you are actually using the screenplay as the tool, as the framework for the story that you're going to tell on film. Whereas with books, it's different. See, with books, how long is your novel? Who are the novelists? How long is your novel? 95. Okay, yours? 147,000. Could be short. That's okay. Okay, and maybe even this week you'll take care of it, right? Okay. Even the nonfiction ones. How long are your books?
300 pages.
300 pages.
85,000 words.
85,000 words. Okay, so you guys get the idea. There's a variety in the length of a book. Well, there is a very definite structure in the length of a film. And not only that, not only is it limited to a certain window of pages, but certain things, certain key moments of the film happen on a specific page. If I know by page 12 or 13 that there's not a strong inciting incident, then I already know that the script is not working. It's got a lot of uphill work to do. The structure in films is critical. So great movies are built, not written. It's different. It's not a free-form creative endeavor. It's much more like architecture. Key number 4, you must have a killer pitch. Not a good pitch. Not a great pitch. A killer pitch. Now, why is that? Let's get one huge myth out of the way first, because we can't move any forward today and on this event unless we do it. This great idea that you've been protecting, that you're afraid to share with people, that you're like, hey, I don't know about him or her. I don't want to lose this as a special project, a special idea. Okay? You have to share your ideas with anyone and everyone who will listen to them. It's called market validation. It happens in business, it happens in sales, and it sure as heck happens in the film industry. Do you ever hear the expression, there's nothing new under the sun? Your idea is not that original. It is, however, original to you and how you execute that idea. And that's what you need to practice. You need to have total clarity on your story. You need to be able to get, in 1 minute or less, the key part of what your story is really about. That's the importance of that pitch. Okay? And when I say pitch, by the way, in this context, I'm not talking about the more detailed story meaning that you're trying to get. That's what the pitch is for. The pitch is to get someone to say, I want to learn more about that film. I'm really interested in that. It's about setting that meaning. And again, who's going to be here on Sunday for all or most of the day? Would you guys, let me just poll the audience, okay? Who would prefer to have a full pitch workshop versus just some talk about the television industry? It's okay, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm going to give you the choice. So you guys, this would be actually working on your pitches, refining your stories, versus talking about some opportunities in the television industry. Anybody for TV? All right, so out of the courtesy for you, we'll certainly honor that with a few minutes, but we'll spend the vast majority of Sunday working with you on your pitches, okay? So I'm running out of time here. So again, killer pitch. Oops. One last question I have for you on the subject of pitching is, I know some of you have not yet written your book. Some of you have actually written your book and are now looking to market it. Let's be honest. Let's see how many great people we have in the room. Has anybody thought out there, what if I can just skip this whole book, this whole script process, and just sell a movie based on an idea alone? Go ahead, be honest. Come on. I know you're not the only one. Anybody ever thought it was possible? What do you think? Damn right it is. It is damn possible. Jerry Miller is one of Howard's writing and producing partners. Jeremy Miller is probably a name you don't know, but he was a producer and a writer on HBO's Entourage, as well as a number of other movie credits. Jeremy is a pitch legend. When it got to be where he was scheduled on an executive's calendar, they literally cleared the time around it because he constantly pushed the envelope. He has been known to sell projects off pitches alone. It's possible to do that. So as we get into that on Sunday, I really want you to get excited about having a better understanding of the architecture of your pitch. You hit the wrong button here. So this is the last key. And I'm going to motor through this because I am over, and forgive me. Am I okay in the back? Still okay? You're good. Key number 5 is you call the shots. Who calls the shots?
We do.
You call the shots. You call the shots. Because we talked about how things have changed in Hollywood. And so, if you all have been listening, and I know many of you have, and I sincerely thank you for that, but I want you to hear me now more than anything else I've said today. If you have money, script, talent, that means a crew and actors that actually want to be there, even basic equipment. What did I say we can use to do a movie? iPhone. And eyeballs on your finished product. I dare anyone to tell you, no. You have all those things. Does anyone here think you can't make a movie? Anyone in the industry ever comes up to you and challenges you on that, and you have all those things, what are you going to do? You're going to smile and say, we'll see. We'll see. Not now. Not anymore. The world is flat. And there's so many other resources. I mean, come on, guys. iPhone Film Festival. iPhone Film Festival. festivals. It frustrates me. It frustrates me to see so many people with these incredible ideas and all this passion. And there's an industry and a message that has been permeating for years and years and years that you can't do it. That the elitists and the naysayers say you can't do it. So let's wrap this all up with our definition of what success in the industry really means. Because I will tell you that if you define industry success, that it has to be produced by a major studio, it has to star only A-list talent, it has to have a budget over $10 million, it has to be a full studio-funded project, then guess what? Less than 1% chance. Howard is not here to tell you that I can help you with that. Mitch, over in the Middle East, is not here to tell you that. And I certainly am here to guarantee that I have the power to greenlight that kind of project. Anyone who ever tells you that they can, you should run quickly. That's where the scammers in the industry get a bad name. But here's what I do know. Here's what matters to me. Excellence in the work, the ability to attract the right talent. We call that packaging and promotion. The right talent to help deliver on the promise of a great story. The ability to fund the project, a crew that wants to be involved, and last but not least, read that with me, please. As many views in whatever medium so that the story and message can impact thousands or even millions in a profound way. That's all that matters to you. Any of you guys ever seen those Asian videos for like the insurance commercials? They've gone viral. They've got like 6 million views. These little videos. And there are movies that are produced for tens of millions of dollars that didn't have even 1/20th the amount of eyeballs as those movies. This is what matters. You call the shots. Not later, right? Not later. Today. So, last but not least, on Sunday, we're going to just wrap it up. Receive your 11 questions as a quick start guide. I'm out there at the booth with Howard, so just come see me on that. We'll get your name and email, and we'll be able to get you that material so you can actually see the sequence as it comes and see how powerful those 11 questions are. What we're also doing is we're spending private consultations with you. As I said, 10 to 15-minute sessions. We don't want to rush you. We want to talk to you and really understand what your project is, what your idea is, and see if we can help get you some next action steps. There's no obligation at all with us. If you do nothing else but talk to us here, talk to us here. Because we're here to help you and get you on your way. So, most of all, everyone, I just want to thank you. Everyone, who's here? Let's stand up. Let's just get one last stretch. As I wrap this up. I'm not going to make you hug your neighbor and do a dance. No, Brendan, you guys want to do the Brendan Richard thing? Pull that? Do that? All right. It's my time, right? That's what he would say. Whose time is it? My time. Who calls the shots? You call the shots. Who here is going to go out here before this weekend is up and talk to Howard or me or anybody else about a great movie idea that they have? I'm going to hold you all to that. Thank you all very much. All right, stay safe.